Welcome to the True You Summit. I'm Carrie Rubin, your summit host and Chief Mom Officer at the Modern Mom Society. I'm excited to bring you this summit to help you get the tools you need to live an authentic and joyful mom life that's aligned to what your body, soul, and mind desires. I hope you enjoy this limited time free interview with one of the 15 experts that are here to discuss how you can get closer to your true you. Each day of the summit, we will explore 5 different areas of your life where you can improve your connection to your true you as a busy mom: parenting, mom life, authenticity, spirituality, and mind and body. You'll have 24 hours free access to listen to the 3 experts discussing the topic of the day. Otherwise, you can purchase lifetime access to these life-changing series of interviews. There are 2 different packages available. The basic package, which includes all 15 interviews in MP3 format, can be purchased for $29, or the deluxe package, which includes all 15 interviews in audio, video, and transcript format, so you can get this great information whichever way you prefer. Plus, the deluxe package also includes bonus PDFs. One is the How to Connect to Your True You guide. It highlights the ways that the experts shared in their interview as to how they personally connect to their true selves, as well as the common ideas and themes throughout. So if you're new to connecting to your true you, or you're out of practice, you can start trying on these different ways of getting in tune with your inner wisdom, intuition, and true self right away. The second bonus PDF is Key Takeaways from the Summit. As I was recording all of these interviews, I noticed common themes and threads throughout. And this bonus document highlights these keys, so you'll be sure to get the most important ideas and begin to make shifts towards a happier, joyful, more aligned, and more fulfilled mom life today. The $29 and $59 prices for the basic and deluxe packages are good now through the end of the summit on May 10th. After that, the prices will go up to $59 and $89 respectively. So if you think you're going to miss any of these great interviews, or you'll know you want to have lifetime access to them, be sure to grab your True You Summit package upgrade today. Here's today's interview. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, and welcome to the True You Summit presented by the Modern Mom Society. I'm Carrie Rubin, your summit host and the Chief Mom Officer at the Modern Mom Society. I'm excited to bring you the summit to help you get the tools you need to live an authentic and joyful mom life that is aligned to what your body, soul, and mind desires. Today's expert is Josefa Lan. Josefa is a shamanic healer and intuitive coach. She works with men and women of all ages and walks of life to help them reclaim their full spiritual power, connect with their truth, and align their lives with their own guidance system. Her work provides a multifaceted approach to healing the whole self, mental, emotional, and spiritual, so that the highest form of transformation and empowerment is possible. I met Josefa last fall on a retreat held by my coach, Gina Fresquez, who I had interviewed on the Modern Mom Society podcast, episode 26. We got paired off to do some one-on-one coaching, and she coached me through a session where we went back and did some work on a hurt I had carried around with me since childhood. It was really profound and left me quite emotional and very moved by the experience. Josefa is incredibly gifted and intuitive, and I ended up booking a spiritual healing session with her, which I discuss a little bit in the interview. When I started working on putting together the summit, I knew I had to have her participate because she has such a unique perspective and talent that would be a great fit for this event. So in this interview, we discuss her work as a shaman and how that helps her clients become more in tune with their true selves, and how to start shifting the beliefs that are holding you back from living an authentic, more joyful life. It is such a fascinating conversation, and I hope you get out as much out of it as I did. Here's the interview. Welcome to the True You Summit, Josefa. I'm so thrilled to have you as part of this event.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm really honored that you asked me.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you because your skill set is really unique, and I hadn't really met a shaman before. So I'm curious if you could tell the listeners a little bit more about what a shaman is and why you decided to become one.
Yeah, so I actually I kind of stumbled upon shamanism. That was not when I started out. I'm a life coach too, so I started out with the intuitive life coaching. That actually stumbled into that as well. Now that I think about it, but I'm highly sensitive to energy, and historically, shamans are the spiritual counselors of the tribe. They're There are people who have an ability or have been trained and have the skill set to travel into the spiritual world between realms and work with the soul. So
cool.
Yeah. So I'm really highly sensitive, and that kind of came about. I've always been sensitive. I didn't really understand what that meant when I was younger. I got into different types of energy work in my 20s. I did Reiki for a while. Some form of astrology. I did tarot readings. I did Akashic record readings.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was really into a lot of different intuitive stuff, but I found and I worked with a lot of different healers too, because I came from a really dysfunctional childhood. I was raised in a religious cult. And so I was really searching for healing, and searching in a lot of different places, which actually started to get me into a little bit of trouble because I was trusting some people that I shouldn't have been working with. And that's one lesson that I have learned. And I always tell everyone that I work with and anyone that I meet that you cannot be too careful about who you invite into your life, into your space, on a personal level and also on a professional level in terms of working with you in your life. So I had gotten to a place where I'd been coaching for about 3 years. I was really sensitive to the point where if I went to a restaurant that was really busy, I would get dizzy. I felt like I couldn't really leave my house. I was kind of starting to feel a little bit like I was a shut-in. I was unsure of whether or not I wanted to continue coaching. I was considering quitting because I didn't feel like I had any passion for it. Didn't know why I was doing it. And I was also dealing with a lot of health problems now that I think about it. A friend of mine had actually referred me to a healer, or a woman who did readings over the phone, and she kind of read your energy system and told you what was off. So she actually had told me, I'll never forget that day. She said, your spiritual life is your home, and you're not living from your home. And that's what's making you sick. And which is not what I thought she was going to say.
Right. You're like, your thyroid's a little off and your digestion's off, and get that fixed. Right?
I was expecting her to list all the physical things, and she only talked to me about the emotional, spiritual side. And she actually referred me to a shaman in Australia who eventually became my teacher. So I contacted him, and he did the healing for me that I now do for people. And when I spoke with him, he said to me, he said, your sensitivity, the way that your energy system works, was made to do this work. This is what you're supposed to do. And also when I had gotten that reading from that woman, she told me, she said, everything's going to be different for you in a year. Like everything will be different. She didn't tell me it was going to be because of that guy. Yeah. Crazy. She actually gave me 2 different guys, and I went with the one that I was supposed to go with. But yeah, so he started training me, and I started working in the shamanic world. I started learning how to travel and dream and go through different worlds and things like that, which was basically the first time that I ever felt like my sensitivity, that like my gifts really had like a full purpose. I've been really frustrated for a really long time with feeling like what I was doing wasn't like what I was really supposed to be doing. And people loved the Akashic readings. They loved the astrology, but I always just felt like I was giving people information and I wasn't giving them real transformation and change. It really bothered me. It really bothered me. And there's something I'm not like dogging on any of those things. Like I love astrology. I love all that stuff. But for me, what I felt like I really needed to be doing, I never felt like I had like a full grasp on it, and I was really doing it. So the healings now are essentially the deepest form of change and transformation and healing that I have personally ever experienced, and I've seen with my clients. So that kind of in a nutshell is what I'm doing.
That's really interesting. And I did have a healing with you, and it was like the aftermath of that was, I don't know if aftermath is the right word, but my experience after that was pretty profound. I mean, I noticed a shift, and I've always wanted to follow up and ask a little bit more because I'm a very curious person. When you say I go and I clean stuff up and you travel through worlds and things like that, it's a little bit mind twisting. So can you elaborate a little bit more about like how you do that?
Yes. And I always tell people too, when I'm talking to them about the healings, that I totally understand that it's like not a tangible thing. It's like, you do what and how do you do it? And honestly, when I'm doing it, sometimes I'm like, what am I even doing? But then I see the transformation that happens and I'm like, oh yeah, this is working. I'm actually doing something, because it's such a funny, it's like going, basically what I do is I go into a meditation, which I've never, like, do you meditate?
I have a hard time with it. I get really agitated with my brain when I can't get it to calm down. Yeah. Like, if I do it more regularly, it's easier for me to do, and obviously that's why I should be doing it more. But I have a love-hate relationship with it. Yeah. When I'm doing it, it's really worthwhile. But if I'm not, then it's like really frustrating and hard to get back in.
So I started trying to meditate, like, God, I feel like my mid-20s. I mean, when I was little, like, we would try to do it like here or there because my mom was really into it, but I just was like, I don't really understand. But when I really started getting into the healing work, trying different things, I actually can't sit and just meditate because my energy system starts moving and I'm so sensitive. I start to feel things and then feel like things are going into my head. Like it's like not normal. Yeah. And again, for years I was like, what is this? I don't understand. So I go into what I would say is like a type of meditation. It looks like I'm just sitting there meditating, but I'm actually traveling out to meet with the soul of the person that I'm doing the healing for. So what I do is I go into the dreaming world, which is another realm, right? It's where the soul is in your body, but it's also where it's also there. So there's, different levels. So that's where I perform the healing, is in what would be the dreaming world. So I meet with the higher self, or the soul, the dream body of my client. And what I do is I seal their dream body. So a lot of times we'll have little punctures or holes, openings, that lets things in that you don't want. In the shamanic world, we deal with light and we deal with shadow. So shadow doesn't necessarily mean like something that's evil and dark. It's kind of like, it can be an overabundance of of a really intense emotional state that actually creates shadow in the soul. It can be something that you picked up somewhere from somebody else that wasn't yours. Sometimes it's disembodied spirits that have kind of attached to you, and they're either causing you issues or they're just kind of sucking off your life force. So what I do is I seal the dream body so that things can't get in it anymore. And then I clean it out. So any overabundance of shadow that you have is gone. And then anything that's attached to you that you don't want there, I clean it. So that's the first part. Then
are you visualizing that in your head? Like, when you're in your meditative state, are you just envisioning what's happening there? And
so
the mechanics of that work?
So some of it I see, a lot of it I feel. So a lot of it is sense oriented because I'm so physically sensitive. Like I actually rely more on the physical sensation than I do the sight. And that's also because you have to be really careful about not imposing stories and running away with things when you're working. So I actually had talked to my teacher at one point about how I felt like my sight wasn't coming fast enough. And he was like, it's actually better. Like, stick with your body sensation, like, and just go with like the sensing, what you're sensing and feeling. So I do see, but I trust my body a lot more to tell me like this is right and this is things. But yeah, it's an interesting thing.
It's hard to wrap your head around. I mean, especially for somebody who is not quite that, who's not sensitive like you are. It's hard to really wrap your head around what that's like for you.
Yeah. I've had friends like Gina, a good friend of mine, she's always told me like, I wish I could just live like a day in your body, like just to feel what it's like. And I was like, I wish you could too, because then you would understand. I'd also like to live in somebody else's body and see what their body is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, just your sense of intuition is pretty profound too. Is that Is that just thoughts that come to your head that you know are spirit generated, or how does that work?
So my main, my main source of like my intuition, aside from my body, like sensation, is like, I'll get downloads and thoughts. Like I just kind of sense things, or I know that this is what's going on, or this is the direction to go. When I was doing the Akashic readings, the training that I did started out with a pendulum, and it used to drive me crazy because it took I don't know why, but pendulums don't move for me very well. And so it took me so long to get the answer. So I finally I literally chucked it across the room one day, and I was like, I'm just going to get the answers. Like, this is too long for me.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like, and that's the thing. Like, they come in as thoughts. Like it takes I feel like you have to really listen to yourself. Like, you have to listen to the things that are coming in. Like, I'm not like special in that sense. Like, everybody gets like intuitive hits and intuitive thoughts. We get them all differently. But it's just about, some of it's about being open and playful. Some of it's about like really training yourself to listen to it. And I miss a lot of them too. Like, I'm not perfect at that either. Like, a lot go in and out.
Yeah.
But I think
how do you discern that between like a download and an intuitive hit and just a thought that you're having in your like logical brain?
Well, some of that is that's also sense related. So sometimes when I get a hit on something, I'll also get like a shiver that kind of runs through my body. I feel like the intuitive stuff takes me to another place, if that makes sense. Like, thoughts that are just running through your head, usually they're really complicated, first of all. I feel like our brains complicate things a lot. So when we're in our minds, right? And like you're running away with yourself, and you're already 10 days ahead, or 2 weeks ahead, or 10 years ahead of yourself, and you're stressing, and you got fear, and you got all these things happening. Usually it's super complicated. The intuitive stuff, it's simple. Like, the answers are usually way simple, and we usually know them too. Like, we just don't always want to listen to them. So they're, a lot of times too, I feel like they're very affirming when you get them. Like, if you actually just stop and kind of breathe them in. Which I also acknowledge can be really hard to do.
It is, but I'm finding that the more I'm noticing that I had an intuitive hit and then it came to be, I'm starting to get them more often. And I would agree with you that it does seem a little bit different. Like, it is coming from a little bit of a different space than a regular thought. But it definitely takes a lot of paying attention to.
Well, it's also not the same chatter. It's not the same type of chatter that's always going on. It's actually something that kind of makes you go, like, for a second, right? Like, and that's why, that's where I think that it's different. Like, because our minds talk all day long about just total random stuff that's not important.
Right. So in addition to just listening to more of our intuition, how do we get to the root of what our truth is, and how do we uncover that to live more in alignment?
Okay, so let me actually, I'm actually going to finish what I do with the healing first, and that's going to answer that question. Because I didn't actually go through all of it, and the soul retrieval portion is really important, and that actually comes into play there.
Yeah.
So, okay, so after I clean out the dream body, I do a lineage clear. I clear your, like, the mom and the dad's lineage, both mom and dad's side. Usually there's pockets of lineage that are negatively affecting us or keeping us from actually receiving the full power of the lineage. So I clear both of those out, and then I do soul retrieval work. So all parts of my clients' power, all parts of their soul that aren't with them, including soul that they didn't even bring into this lifetime, because most people don't bring all of their soul in. I return that to them. So what that does is it clears your connection to your higher self, to your guidance system, to your intuition, right? To those subtle messages.
I just had a thought, like, maybe that's why I'm getting more intuitive hits, because of our session together. Okay.
So you actually can hear your soul more clearly now, because you don't have all those other layers of stuff in the way, and you have all of your power back to you.
Mm.
So yeah, so that actually is one of the reasons that, and it takes 6 to 8 months for it to fully integrate. So you're actually still in the integration process too.
Mm.
That's one of the reasons that people start to feel more passionate about things in their life. I actually, 6 weeks after my healing, had a full renewed like passion for my work and for who I wanted to work with and how I wanted to work with them. Like all of that came back to me, and I genuinely was going to quit like before I did it, or before he did it for me. So it actually, part of it is the healing coming. That's one way you can do it, is with the shamanic healing. So it actually is, your soul is talking to you now. You're able to hear it on a deeper level. You're able to connect with it. Those subtle nudges and those subtle intuitions, those kind of things, that's your soul talking to you. And that actually will continue to integrate and get deeper for you too. So that's that's one way of doing it. Also, I mean, just in general, like, so the healing is one part of it. The other thing that I do with people is the coaching. And the coaching actually, I think, is very significant too, because the healing handles all the spiritual issues that you have going in your life. And then it actually brings up all the belief system work that needs to get worked on and looked at. So sometimes and I've done just the healing for people without the coaching, and then vice versa. I really feel like they work so magically together. I also really love actually seeing everything integrate. So it's probably partially too that I just love watching like how it transforms people. Like it's so amazing. When I started offering the healing for people and then doing the coaching, I noticed that my coaching, like how long I work with people now, is like, it's half the time. Like it went from 6 months to a year to 3 to 6 months, because people are just moving through things so much faster. It's so much easier for them to work through the belief stuff because they don't have all the spiritual stuff. And they're also hearing and integrating with their soul. So it kind of just changes the whole format and the whole game for it. But so the other thing is really getting clear on the belief systems that you're carrying around about yourself and about your world. And what is, the foundation that you've built, that perspective from. A lot of us learn from when we're younger, misconceptions about ourselves and about what the world is and who we can be in the world and how we can be in the world. And those, usually what happens is we learn something and then we spend the rest of our lives making ourselves right about that belief and looking for evidence. So, right. So, and just like, I'm unworthy of love and, I don't deserve to be loved. Well, so then you find yourself in all these relationships that continue to teach you that over and over again. Right? But it's not actually that you're unworthy of love. It's that you decided somewhere along the way that was true. And then you continued to look for evidence to make yourself right about that decision. Because the brain is very brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, this is where I struggle with that a little bit is, so, I mean, any belief that limits us is basically not valid. Like, how do you know what is actually true for you?
Yeah. So, what's true for you actually will lift you up and open you up and be expansive and bring you joy and happiness. Like the mistruths are the things that are keeping you down, that are wrapped in shame, that are keeping you running, that are keeping you constantly moving, that don't allow you to just stop and be, right? Those are the mistruths. Those are the things that actually aren't lending to like the higher experience of your life and your joy on the planet, because you actually didn't come here to suffer. We did not come here to suffer. Like our role and our purpose in this world is actually to become healthier, happier human beings. That serves the planet more than anything else. Everybody coming into like literally getting connected in, learning what's really true for them. And it really is an individual process, like how their energy system works. That's another thing that I do with people with the coaching. It's like coming into a sense of understanding like how your personal energy system works, how you take in the world, what works for you in the way that you want to be living, in the way that you want to be making decisions. I have a client who I just finished working with, and she had gotten into 3 different marriages, and was on her way out from the 3rd, and was really struggling with the fact that she didn't know what she was doing with her life, and she didn't know what she was doing in those relationships. And the more that we talked and we worked, the more that like she started to focus in on the fact that her energy system works very slowly. Like she needs to move through things slow. She needs time to think about things. She needs time to integrate them. She's actually super intuitive. And when she would give herself a breath in a few days to sit with something, she would come to the right thing for herself. But she was always surrounded by, right, and looking for like that fast. I'm not fast enough. I'm not quick enough. I have to be faster. And that was a thought and a belief that she had from her childhood. So when we started working just on that, like getting clear on how her energy system worked, it changed everything for her. And she would come in and just tell me these, realizations that she's had, and like everything in her life started to align because of that. So that's really what it's about. It's about like coming into yourself, right? Learning about yourself. That's really why we're here, is to learn about ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, there's just a lot of layers to that, and I can think of 1,000 different ways to go from here. But how do you start changing those false beliefs?
So, well, you start actually looking at them.
Yeah, right.
So
realizing they're there.
Yeah. So those things their beliefs can be hard to change on your own. We all live in our own heads, and they're usually not always the friendliest place unless you've really worked on that. And even when you have, we still have to work on making it a friendly place.
Yeah.
But so for belief work, I really think that it's best to work with a professional personally, just because, like, for instance, I've been trained and I've been working for like the last 7.5 years, listening to people talking about their lives and listening specifically for the beliefs that are underneath what they're saying. So when I'm having a conversation with someone in session, I'm listening to what they're saying, but I'm also listening for where the beliefs are underneath that. And so that's the first thing, is actually being able to pinpoint exactly what the belief is and understand what it is. And you don't have to do it with a professional. I just think that it's easier.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't even realize that it's a false belief until somebody else points it out.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Beliefs are relevant to us and they work for us until they don't anymore. So your beliefs are actually serving you, even if they're negative. They really do serve you up to a certain point. Usually you'll hit a wall though, and you just kind of you're like, I can't get through this. I can't get through this. And that's when the belief really needs to be looked at and reevaluated and reframed. So it's actually being able to like look at what is the belief, and then do I want to keep it or do I want to let it go and change it? Right. And then it's about integrating it into your life little by little. So questioning, really paying attention to the thoughts that you're having around that belief specifically. And then actually changing your behavior. So change happens little by little in subtle ways. It's not big. It's not these like big giant decisions that we're making. It's like, someone who's always given their time to everybody else, right? Who believes that that's what they need to do to be valued, right? It's about making the decision one day and saying, actually, that's not going to work for me. I need to do it at this time. That is where it changes. Like those little decisions, and then they build on each other because you start to experience, oh, wow, I did that and I didn't die, right? Wow, like, hold on a second, the world didn't stop turning and everyone's still okay. And,
right.
So you do that, and then you experience like that felt good, right? Like if maybe it was uncomfortable, maybe it wasn't like totally like what you thought it would be, but something about it feels right, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you do it again, and then you do it in a different situation, and you try, and that actually teaches the brain, and it teaches you that, first of all, like you're not gonna die from that experience, that it's okay to do something different,
Mm-hmm.
but also that, you know, you can expand on that, and it's possible to like grow into that, and it's something that you really can have for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is also really important, is actually experiencing the evidence that you can have that.
Mm-hmm. So let's say you examined your beliefs and you start making different changes, and you're feeling pretty good about it, but the rest of the people in your life are like, well, you know, in some cases it turns out fine, but in some cases people will start really giving you a hard time for being different than how you've always been. So how do you deal with those people keeping you
Yeah.
stuck?
So that's a really good question. And it's something that I deal with clients a lot, because a lot of my clients tend to be overgivers and under receivers. So they tend to say yes, yes, yes a lot. And they're really not great at owning their no.
Mm-hmm.
So the people in their life are used to them saying yes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start trying on your no, it's really normal for the people in your life to be like, what the heck is going on? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and to kind of start bucking the system, because if you think about it, you've trained them, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have actually trained them to experience yes from you all the time. So it's really normal for people to give you pushback when you start to change behaviors. That's really standard. One thing to do is to understand that usually if there are people that are in your life that really love you and want to be part of your life and want the best for you, they will go through that discomfort and grow through it with you. So the people that you really want around, right, that you want to keep, are the people who are going to grow through that change with you and adjust. So usually there's a little bit of pushback in the beginning, and then people start to see, oh, like you're different. Oh, you seem like you're happier, or you know, things have changed, and they're more supportive of that. Then you have other people who maybe are really used to you doing things a certain way, and they just aren't going to get on board, right? And those are the people that you have to decide, like, if they're like really close family and it's people that you still want in your life, then you have to have really strong boundaries and know that this is how far I'm willing to go and this is how far I'm not. And it's okay for other people to be uncomfortable with the way we're living our life, with the decisions that we're making, right? That is okay. And actually, we do people a disservice by changing ourselves, changing our behavior, to meet what we think that they need, or what they maybe have told us that they think that they need.
Right.
It actually is disempowering to not give somebody your authentic no. It teaches them that you don't actually believe that they're powerful enough to have the experience that they need to have for themselves. So really what you're doing in that space is not only like standing up for what's true for you and what you believe in, but you're empowering the other person. And that's really what you have to look at. It's an empowering experience for everyone. If you're doing what's right for you, right? And you're staying true to that, then that's also what's right for the other person.
They won't always see it that way, I don't think. And there could be some fallout from that. You know, I'm just envisioning some of the more challenging relationships I have in my life. And I can see where hopefully at the end of it, they would learn to be a better person themselves, but it may not. And I think it's just a matter of being okay with what it is, as long as you're true to what is true for you.
Right. And that's again where those boundaries have to be really strong, and you have to know how far you're willing to go and where you're going to stop with certain people. And, you know, sometimes you have to make tough decisions about whether or not you really want to keep certain people in your life. Like, what are they bringing into my life? Right. What is this experience actually giving to me? And so I mean, that's a decision I've had to make before with relationships, where I have to decide, do I want to keep this person in my life, even though they've been a really valuable person to me in the past, or their family, right? Do I actually feel more uplifted? Do I feel more, am I experiencing more joy and more happiness and, more aligned in my life by being in relationship with them?
Yeah.
And those are tough decisions. I don't ever think that there's a black and white for anyone with that. Every person that I work with has a different family situation, has a different experience of that. And I really don't think that there's a right or a wrong necessarily. It's about you really staying connected to what feels right for you. And sometimes that changes too. And it's okay for it to change. It's okay for things to be different. It's also okay that you're not going to do it perfectly. But that's also one of those things that you kind of have to really stay connected in with. And again, like for people who are not going to get on board, who are just the way that they are, you have to decide like where your boundaries are.
Yeah, that's challenging, but something to work on.
Yeah.
Any final tips to share before we close out?
Oh gosh.
I feel I could talk to you for forever. Bumping up towards the end of our time.
I think that one of the other things that I think about a lot, that I think is really important in this day and age, in this time frame, in this internet world that we're living in, and Instagram and Facebook, all those fun things, and also just and there's nothing wrong with self-help books or anything like that, but all of the information that's out there, I really feel like more than anything, people really need to come into the realization that they are the experts in themselves. And we can take in information from other people, and I've read a million books, so I get it. Like I've worked with a lot of people, but I kind of came to a point where I was like, I can't read another book. Like I can't take in anybody else's thoughts about the world anymore. Like I really need to listen to what I think about the world. Like I really need to listen to what I feel about myself and what's really true for me. That's something that's been like a theme. It's a theme in all of my work in general, like when I work with people. But it's a theme that's been coming up for me a lot lately, just in my relationship to myself again. So I feel like that's worth thinking about. Like,
yeah, that's been a really big one for me, especially with a lot of the health challenges I dealt with. I was always looking to somebody else to have the answer for me and like the magic solution for what would resolve what was going on with me. And I would get in these appointments with these doctors, and they would say, you got to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that, and I would just be very resistant, but like feeling that it wasn't quite right for me, but I went along with it anyway, just because they were the expert and they would know better. But at the end of the day, I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. And so I feel like, ultimately, I just needed to let that noise go and stop, the input of information and other people's opinions, and just kind of get back in touch with who I was and what I felt my body needed. And I didn't give myself enough credit for being able to come up with the solution to that. And I think I was also just a little bit impatient, which is always part of the problem. Yeah. But I think that the too much information and pitching that in favor of tuning into yourself is a very good piece of advice. So one last question I had for you is, how do you connect to your true you?
So I think aside from my spiritual work, which is where, again, as we started with this, is my home, like, the other side is being really like silly and not taking things too seriously.
I love that.
Yeah, I actually, because I have astrology wise, like I have a lot of Scorpio, and which is really intense, deep in energy, which lends to my spiritual work. But
I'm a Scorpio too.
Are you? Yeah. Well,
yeah.
And that's why you love talking to people and gathering information and digging deep. Like,
yeah.
So I have a lot of Scorpio, right? So I've got all that intense energy, but then I have Sagittarius, which that side of me, like sometimes the Scorpio will overrun everything, like that really intense side. So for me, like laughing, not taking myself too seriously, thinking about stupid things that I've done and actually laughing at them really help. And I really love like practical jokes and just kind of like making light of things, because we can get really bogged down in the world and in ourselves and all the things that we need to do and all the, especially, now that I'm a mom, like I can really feel that.
Oh yeah.
So, so I think that like, for me, like actually my sweet spot is when I'm like not taking myself too seriously. And that's when another area where I really feel like the truth of who I am. So
I love that answer. Thank you so much for being here, Josefa. I love talking to you.
I love talking to you. Thank you for having me.